Yeah, thank you, Chuck, for that overview of and like history of y'all's organization. It's really good to be grounded and yeah, just to know the folks that I'm speaking with, and I see a lot of familiar faces too of folks that have been in and out of and have helped volunteer on the National Nurses United campaign for Medicare for All. So I just want to say hi to those folks, and yeah, I'm happy to talk about the work that I do with the nurses. So really quick, hello everybody. Riley Brann. I use he, him pronouns. I currently live in Vallejo, California, or Alone Land, in the Bay Area. And yeah, I've been with the nurses for, um, gosh, I think I just hit my seventh year in May. Sixth year? I can't do math. In any case, it's been a little while, and I've been helping run the National Medicare for All, as well as some of our other like IE work and campaign work. And so yeah, when I was invited to talk about patients over profits and some of the national work. But I heard folks, and I also see folks from California, and so I can also just kind of talk about different buckets of the work that we're engaged in. But to start us off, I will just talk about the Patients Over Profits campaign because I think it's definitely one of our most interesting campaigns. And I just want to start off by saying that this is a campaign that we've been developing over 3 or 4 years now, more heavily. But I think it goes back as far as like 2020, is when we like kind of had the inception for this. And this is the Patients Over Profits campaign. And the idea is that we want to be able to drive a wedge between industry, right? The very people who are trying to stop us from achieving the healthcare, goal that we're trying to achieve, which is single payer, and to drive a wedge between them and our elected officials, because quite clearly, right, our elected officials, so many of them receive campaign contributions, which affect their policymaking decisions, and what they, ultimately think is the best policy, and that's led to things like reforming the ACA, and or if you guys are going as far as 2010, maybe you would say that it went as far as that to not enact single payer, right, and to and instead go towards a reform like ACA, which quite clearly did not do enough, right? While it did do great things, and did provide more healthcare for lots of people, it did not close all of the gaps and reach us to universal coverage, right? And as we all know, Medicare for All is the only policy solution that can actually achieve true universal coverage because of the pure fact that it eliminates barriers to care, financial barriers to care, right? Gets rid of copays, deductibles, all of those things that allow, or that prevent people from seeking care, and that's the only one, right? Public option, et cetera, don't do that. And so, yeah, our Patients Over Profits campaign is designed to drive a wedge between industry and our elected officials, to really, ask them whose side they're on. We took a lot of inspiration, obviously, from the other pledges that have done really, really well. So, if folks are familiar with the No Fossil Fuel pledge, many presidential candidates, and I'll talk about who has signed our pledge in a bit, but many presidential candidates and Democratic elected leaders have signed that pledge, and it's kind of become kind of a norm, right? Especially during election time, to sign a no fossil fuel money pledge to say that you're going to like stand with people instead of oil money. And so we very much wanted to have that same sort of ethos exist inside of the Democratic Party, but with healthcare dollars, right? And so we created a pledge, and I'm going to go ahead and just drop the link for those who have not seen it, into the chat. But this is our website where we ask elected leaders, candidates for who are running for office, to sign the Patients Over Profits pledge, declaring that they will reject contributions from, and if I read it exactly, it's like reject contributions from lobbyists, CEOs, lobbyists for big pharma corporate insurers, and yeah, to pledge to put patients over profits and not take contributions over $200 from executives, lobbyists, and PACs affiliated with the corporate healthcare industry, including private insurers, pharma corporations, and private hospitals who are organizing to take over our healthcare system. And so, yeah, we have had, I think in the past few years, we've had lots of success with the Patients Over Profits Pledge and growing it. We have over 320 signers today. And yeah, it was, just started from complete scratch and zero a few years ago. And so we hope that as each election cycle and midterm cycle, presidential cycle comes around, that's when we see the most kind of uptick, right? Because there's new candidates and people who are running for office who quite clearly want to, communicate to their constituents that like, hey, this is where I stand on healthcare. I support single payer, and I will in fact reject this corporate money if it were to ever come to me. And so, yeah, like I said, we've had success, and we tend to host more patients over profits calls near election cycles. So we had some in the last right election kind of being up, and we've kind of slowed down on hosting the patients over profits calls. The Patients Over Profits campaign is just one aspect of the larger national Medicare for All work that we do. So I'll talk about that campaign in just a second as well. But yeah, so the Patients Over Profits campaign, if you scroll to the signees, you can see some of the most recent signers. We update this periodically, like once a month or so, come and update this website. I think our most notable signer as of late, and this he signed back in December before his campaign. I think it was December, a while back, before his campaign really started to heat up. But for those of you who are familiar with Zohran Mamdani in New York, who's the mayoral candidate, he signed our Patients Over Profits pledge when he was approached by one of our volunteers out of New York. And so that was really cool. And yeah, some other notable signers in the past, not past election cycle, but in even further back, Jill Stein of the Green Party has also signed the pledge when approached by Green Party delegates, and Marianne Williamson, for those who know Marianne Williamson, which I thought was a fun little addition. In any case, what those two or three, the last two notable candidates kind of say is that like even U.S. presidential candidates, right, we'll sign this, and the more that we kind of push with our volunteers and create an ethos of this, the more popular it will become, and the more successful our campaign will be, right? And what a day it will be when we can sever the tie between the Democratic Party and corporate healthcare money. May it be so. So that's the Patients Over Profits campaign. Happy to answer more questions about that. You can see a list of signers on the website, etc. If folks are interested, you can sign up to get information about the Patients Over Profits campaign. If you click on Take Action, or also just drop this link in the chat, that's a direct sign up link. And then, yeah, you can sign up, and I think you'll get sent the guide, and you'll get sent all the information about how we ask volunteers to sign this up, or to do this sort of work. Typically, it can happen, via email, or most importantly, or the way it tends to happen most successfully is by, volunteers just approaching the candidates at events or different, fundraising things and things like that. But yeah, and then I'm going to quickly jump to talk about some of our national work, and to make this easy, and I'm just going to like highlight some of these things and move kind of quickly because I don't want to take up too much time. But that Linktree link that I just dropped into the chat will take you to our National Medicare for All campaign's Linktree. And what a Linktree is, for those who aren't familiar, it's just a series of links that you can click on with inside one sort of mega link. And yeah, this can take you to all of the different things that you can do right now inside of our Medicare for All campaign. One of the big things that we're doing is our Fund Care Not Billionaires campaign, which I can also talk about that. It's more targeted towards the budget reconciliation bill and the things that have been happening around that. But some of the ongoing work that we have right now that we've been doing with our Medicare for All campaign is in the last 6 months, when the new bill was reintroduced, we held legislative visits with members of Congress. That's something that we will do periodically. And if you're interested in hosting a legislative visit with your member of Congress and want facts on Medicare for All, or et cetera, our union has plenty of resources and things that can help you. And yeah, so we did that. Right now, we are starting a pretty robust nurses presentation program where we are taking nurse members from our union, active nurses, and retirees, and training them to give presentations to progressive organizations in key target congressional districts for Medicare for All. And our hope with that is some long-term organizing where we will do some outreach to these progressive, groups that we've identified in these target congressional districts, ask them if they want a presentation on Medicare for All from one of our nurses, And then once that presentation happens, ask them for endorsement and ask them to join in on the campaign. And we hope to, in some of these key congressional areas, right, start to build out coalitions for Medicare for All in those areas. And so, uh, yeah, that's kind of what our Medicare for All work is geared towards right now. Some of the ways that we're supporting that work is we have a calling team and a data entry team. So our calling team helps call to recruit for events that are largely happening in the Medicare for All campaign, and then our data entry team is largely entering data from those said events. And those are two just like online teams that you can live anywhere and be a part of just with your schedule. And those two teams just support the larger Medicare for All work. And so, yeah, there's more stuff on here that I could talk about, protecting VA rights. But I'm going to stick to kind of the Medicare for All stuff. And yeah, on that note, I'll talk really quickly because this is one payer states about the CalCare campaign. So I'll drop, there's another link tree in there for the CalCare campaign. And that is our state-based single payer campaign. So National Nurses United, I also work for the California Nurses Association. And they are running, or we are running, a state-based campaign. And so the CalCare campaign is true legislation that we are working to push through the assembly. There is not a bill right now. There will be a bill that will be introduced come January 2026 is the plan. We will introduce a bill and run a campaign akin to the one that we ran last time, which is essentially a sprint in a 1 year session to push the bill through. Our strategy broadly on this is that, we are trying to pass a policy bill specifically. Inside of our policy bill specifically, there is information that says something akin to that this bill doesn't go into effect until it is funded, right? And the purpose behind this is because we want to communicate to the legislature, and the legislator ought to, with a California majority or Democratic majority, pass a single payer bill that is a policy bill, right? That says these are the things that we would like to enact for single payer, and then funding will come as a separate bill as an aside. And then we give, a bunch of different funding proposals about how the legislature can choose to fund it. That is a political decision that the legislature will have to make. And so, in any case, that is our CalCare campaign. At the moment, what we're doing is we run routine monthly calls for our CalCare. They're called our CalCare movement calls. This is where like district leaders, some of our most dedicated activists, volunteers, also online volunteer teams like a research team, and outreach team. We all meet monthly. The call ranges between 30 to the 100 people, and we all come together. It's a space to do work on CalCare. And so we, in the district leader breakout, they'll talk about some of the district by district activities that they're engaged in, and our, other volunteer teams breakouts, they'll like the research and outreach. They'll talk about and will engage, literally sometimes engage in some of the volunteer work of doing outreach and doing research. But then they also do it outside of that. But yeah, we run monthly routine calls for our CalCare campaign. And yeah, that's a really great, way to keep a statewide, state-based movement like going, even in times where maybe there's not a bill or there's less action happening, right? And so you're just trying to like keep the thing moving. And so these routine monthly calls is our answer to that, and a way in which that yeah, we can continue to do routine work even when we don't have necessarily a material organizing tool in order to do so, like a bill. So in any case, there's lots of other really cool things you can see on our CalCare link tree as well. I'm not gonna like run through all of them, but I think now is probably a good time to just pause and I can help answer some of the questions that I saw come in. And yeah, would love to just like verbally chat with people. But why corporate money? Okay, under $200. Okay, so the reasoning for that is that it's because we want workers still who like work for these corporations and et cetera to be able to donate, right?
Okay.
The $200 mark is kind of like, oh, well, if you are a pharmacist, like you should still be able to, right? If you are, yeah. So and also that money that was decided by like our like legal team when they were talking to the no fossil fuel pledge people, because that was like it's like a threshold that also
Yeah.
allows like the number one thing that why we get why like cop outs, right, from politicians who are like running for office or who maybe who are already elected about why they won't sign things like this is because they'll say, oh well, I can't control who, donates to me, and I can only these, what about these people who donate like really small amounts? I can't go through all of this. And so this was like a way in which we could compromise and also still like allow working people to be able to donate to campaigns. But when it starts getting over that 200 mark, it's clear to us that like, okay, this is maybe no longer a working person, and this is somebody who's donating for other reasons. But anyway, that's it was chosen for a variety of different reasons. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm also happy to talk more in depth about our CalCare campaign or Patients Over Profits. But yeah, happy to go
Yeah.
where the group would like here in
Yeah,
Washington.
let's open it up for some questions and conversation here. Riley, really appreciate the overview. Really excellent work that you're doing. You're in Vallejo, that's right?
I live in, yeah, that's right.
Okay, nice. Mike, your hand is up. You're muted. Mike?
Yeah, yeah, Riley. Sometimes I hear that National Nurses United and California Nurse Association um, go ahead because they know they're so strong and don't listen to other people who are equally passionate about single payer. How do you respond to that? And have you heard that sort of
Uh,
complaint?
Good question.
No, I typically don't hear that kind of complaint. I don't know what folks would mean by that because we kind of, we run our campaign and we have our bill, and so I would have to like dig
Hmm.
into like what people meant by that. But we're a union that runs a both state and national based single payer campaign. And, you know, I think the nurses very much because they live and breathe in our healthcare system, wanted to find a solution and be advocates for a solution to the healthcare crisis. And so their answer to that was single payer. And so I think it makes sense that they run a campaign as they do. And, want their, I mean, if it's about branding or something, I don't know. Like, I would have to, again, dig into whatever the kind of complaint was. But yeah, I honestly like I try to stay away from any kind of thing like that because, I wake up and live and breathe to try to pass single payer. I think one of the things and one of our goals and objectives as a movement is to be able to say the words single payer and Medicare for all to people more so than they like hear the words Pepsi or Coca-Cola or any other Walmart or thing that they encounter on a day. I think that the direct forces of capitalism are such a overt threat to everyday working people's lives that there are other things that we could work on and consider than like, yeah, how to yeah, I don't know. There are other bigger problems that I see in the world.
Okay.
Um,
Thanks, Riley. We have a few more folks in the queue. Let's see, Catherine, then Don, then Barry. Catherine?
Yeah, I kind of put my question in the chat because I didn't want to forget it. Because we at Whole Washington and Healthcare is a Human Right, we did a ton of work over this last year, working with getting a resolution passed for our state labor counselors. So I had quite a number of unions that signed on to or voted for this resolution, but actually even helped to pass it and to get it passed in their local county labor councils.
yeah.
And so I'm wondering if NNU as a union, have you done much of that work? And I want to say it was amazing for us, so I kind of highly encourage her, but maybe you already have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that. We definitely have. We definitely engage all of our CLs. We call them our CLCs, our Central Labor Councils,
Oh, okay.
and we have passed resolutions in numbers of them around the state to either for CalCare single payer, more largely national single payer as well. We've passed tons of resolutions for kind of every layer. And yeah, the larger like state-based federation, I'll just talk a little bit about that because I think it's quite interesting. For those who like follow the political history of CalCare and where it went and all that sort of stuff, the bill was essentially shelved in the Appropriations Committee, right? It didn't move further than that because Buffy Wicks didn't want to put it to a vote to the committee. And so essentially, when we met with Wicks, and I was literally a part of those meetings with other staff members and volunteers and other unions, and the Alameda Labor Central Committee was there, and council, sorry, CLC was there, and so yeah, when we met with Wicks, what she said was that like, oh well, the AFL-CIO of California, like they did endorse our legislation this year. This past time, they endorsed CalCare, so we got the entire state fed right to endorse CalCare, which is all of the labor, the entire labor movement of California. It's plus 2 million or 2 million plus union workers in the state of California who are represented by the California Labor Fed. And they endorsed our bill. But what Wick said was she tried to, play this thing where she said, well, it's great that they endorsed it, but they didn't put it on one of their priority legislation list. And we take that list very seriously. And sure enough, I went and looked and they had endorsed the bill, but they didn't add it to this like separate list, smaller subset of list, that was, and we were just so grateful, by doing all of the CLC work that we've been doing over the years to get to the point right as the bill was headed to the Appropriations Committee to have the AFL-CIO step up, or the California Labor Fed, sorry, to step up and say, hey, we endorse CalCare, like please, push this through as well. So we had them on our side pushing, but the like they found the Democrats, as they do, found some sort of way to say, oh well, we wanted this bit, so next time around will you do that? And so in any case, we are now organizing, as you could imagine, to make sure that CalCare, and that it was last time maybe 1400 or whatever the bill number is this time, makes it onto the priority legislation list. And how does one get onto the priority legislation list? Well, it gets voted on by X members and blah, blah, blah. We're doing all of that. So in any case, that is definitely an organizing plan and absolutely a worthwhile one. Having the state-based labor associations on board, at least even if it is a signed statement of, maybe they don't endorse specific legislation, but you could get them to say something about the universal healthcare more largely. Those types of actions are also like really great for state-based single payer movements.
Thank you, Catherine, for your question. Riley, for your response. So much. Yeah. Don McCann, who's out in California. Don?
Yes, for those who don't know me, I'm one of the ancient presidents of PNHP. And I, for instance, in the early days before we had our current governor, I had a long conversation with him about single payer. He was very enthusiastic about single payer. And those in California know where he is now, and it's not very pretty, but he's not very enthusiastic. But the point I want to make is that all of our organizations need to be working together, and a lot of them are falling out and not, addressing other minor issues and so forth. But the California Nurses Association, National Nurses United, have remained very steady supporters of this organization and of a single payer. And I just want to give my endorsement to them and emphatically state that we all should be working with them in unison to bring us to single payer. So I happen to release today the latest health justice monitor, which Jim Kahn and I write, and it's on the social mission. And those who might be interested in reading that, it is written from a personal standpoint, but I think the social mission is where it's at, where we have to be going on the healthcare reform. So any of you who might be interested in reading Health Justice Monitor, you can just type in the name health in your
Right.
finer.
Don yeah, a great statement, Don. Was there a question for Riley, or you just wanted to endorse what Riley's up to? And then if you could share,
My point is the strong endorsement of
okay.
what
Yeah.
Riley was talking about.
Thank you so
I'm
much,
sorry.
Don. If I could just respond to just really quickly, I appreciate that deeply. One thing that I will say is that like I don't also come here. I mean, yes, I do work for CNA and NU, but if I can like honestly take that hat off for just a second and talk to you all as like a person in the movement, when before I started working for CNA, I was organizing with the Democratic Socialists of America in Portland for their Medicare for All campaign, and was just like I'm going to join their committee and help organize canvases. And like that's just what I did for weeks. And we also had a Medicaid vote. This was back in 2017, 2016. But we had like a Medicaid vote coming up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out and just like talk to people about this. And at the time, then I like hardly had known of the nurses. I only knew about them because they were the only major national union to come out and endorse Bernie Sanders in the presidential the year before. And so that's all that I really like kind of knew about them. And I was organizing for DSA, and I knew that nurses were like the sort of like yes, they're the most trusted profession. Yes, everyone loves nurses, but they're such a key crucial point in our society of messengers for this issue. And so like the reason why when my friend, the person who I knew asked me like, "Oh, do you want to come work with us?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to come work for the nurses, and I think I want to work for this organization for the rest of my life because of A, how militant they are, B, like what they sort of do in the labor movement as far as, being a militant nurse-led, female-led, revolutionary type of organization. I was like, absolutely. And because of the fact that like I think that when we talk about like passing Medicare for all and like who's going to be the leaders and like a national movement for that, nurses are just quite clearly it. And so for me, like I work for this union and do this because I very much passionately want to pass Medicare for all and single payer, and I want to figure out how to organize the nurses union to do it, right? And they want to do it too, but having the resources and all the things that are the backing behind them really allows me to like see this in a different way than I did 5, 7 years ago when I was working, as a volunteer in DSA. And so anyway, I just wanted to say quite like thank you for that, Dawn. And like the nurses are trying to build something really big and really special. And yeah, I'm honored and like humbled to be a part of it. So anyway.
Yeah, thank you for that exchange. And we don't have to, we're not going to have time to get much into it tonight because Walter too is in the room and he's going to be coming up in a few minutes, Riley. But just I would love to put heads together with you and other folks at NNU and really talk about a strong coalition based, really social justice movement wide strategy for getting this passed because we're not big enough until we connect with other social justice movements. So this is really a critical time, I think, for us to get this work done. So thank you for that. Let's bring up Barry and Elizabeth, and then we're probably going to be winding down and then pivoting over to Walter, and then a closing comment, Riley, as well. But Barry, then Elizabeth, or Betty? I guess Betty. Barry, you and I
Yes.
mute? Here you go.
I'll just make a brief statement because I'm really looking forward to hear what Walter, I haven't seen you in a long time. Glad to see you. Looking forward to your comments. Um, to me, the major problem that we have is the leadership of the Democratic Party does not want this. Gavin Newsom was for it before he was firmly against it. Kamala Harris was for it before she became a candidate for president. This is our major problem. We can go and we can lobby individual members of the California State Assembly and the State Senate, but it's the leadership of the party that is, and Gavin Newsom's going to be in office throughout next year. He's termed out at the end of next year. I find it very significant that I don't believe any candidate for Democratic Party candidate, I should say, for governor for next year has actually made this an issue, let alone a major issue as part of their campaign. So that to me, along with the legislative agenda that you folks will be working on with the CalCare bill, needs to be a major focus to get these Democrats to actually stand up and do it. I'm agreeing, and I'm very happy that our Green Party candidate for governor, Butch Ware, is making Medicare for all a major part of his platform. And perhaps one way to get the Democrats to actually stand up and fight for this might be for the nurses to actually give him some consideration. And
Okay.
so I'm not looking for an answer right now. I think you need to take that back to your leadership,
Yep.
but it really might put the fear of God or whatever into the Democratic leadership if a Green Party candidate for governor actually received consideration from a major union.
Okay. Thank you,
So
Barry.
anyway, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep. Thank you for that comment. Let's pivot over to Betty, and then thanks so much, Barry. Betty, you go with Betty or Elizabeth primarily?
Well, Betty, either one.
Okay. Okay. Just
Um,
want to be polite. Yeah. Go ahead.
I I could add Obama to that list that Ken just talked about because I was watching very closely when they were arguing over, and they came so close to do it to passing single payer, and Obama backed down. I don't know why. And I said, all they need to do is have the budget committee, uh, uh, cash it out and see which was better. So now my question is, can we get the current budget committee, cashing out there's a word for that, uh, comparing that with other options. And if we could do it in this current legislature, federal budget committee, I think that would be wonderful because I know single payer would win hands down.
So yeah, Riley, go ahead and respond.
Yeah, so I think that the CBO's office has put out periodic reports
Video.
about single payer. Yeah, if you look up the Congressional Budget Office reports on single payer, this is like the nonpartisan office, right? That's like through, yeah,
Yeah,
Congress. They absolutely have put out reports and show that single payer would save like extraordinate amounts of money.
right.
And then moreover, yeah, there's also like both Republican and Democrat back
Yes.
studies that show it. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely some things like that. I think the CBO just put out another recent one. I'll try and see if I can find it.
I remember Nancy Pelosi said, "Yeah, well, it's a good thing, but it's not time for that." She was the only one. Everybody was for it in the vast people. The people were for it. She wasn't.
Yeah, the Dems seem to always have an excuse at
Yeah.
the higher level. But that's what the Patients Over Profits campaign is for, right? Is to drive that wedge,
Right.
get younger local elected candidates to sign so that they sign at a younger age and as they move their way up through the rank, right? This is a long game, not something we're going to win in 1, 2, 3 years with the Patients Over
Right.
Profits, but this is a long-term game about changing the sort of makeup of Congress. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty and Riley. Yeah, Riley, do you want to make just a closing comment before we bring up Walter? And again, thank you so much. Really, this is inspirational, and the discussion about strategy needs to be what are we doing well, and what do we need to be doing better, and are we just repeating what we're doing, and is it really getting us anywhere? Just a fair question, right? What do you think, Riley?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that we absolutely need to be like working well at a statewide level, or sorry, at like a national wide level with all of the different, movements. I think that individually, like I both want to see state-based movements like competing against each other isn't the right way to put it, right? But I love to see when like New York, when their bill gets really close, and I love to see all of the developments that are happening in Washington and in Oregon with their state single payer bills. I think each one of them is unique and like just like how it happened in Canada, right? One of us is going to get it. Some of this is going to click at some level, and so yeah, and I think that all of us are at the same simultaneously learning from each other and seeing how each other are doing it. And so I think, yeah, this is, the a long game, and we gotta like stay focused on the end goal, which is, single payer. And so I appreciate all of the work that all of you put into this, and continue to do. And yeah, if you have questions about our work or how to get involved or anything, I'd love to chat with folks. I can also drop my email in the chat, but thank you for having me.
I was going to ask you the same. Yeah, and appreciate the earlier links. We'll copy the chat and send it around to our listserv as well. So it'll get double hits. So Betty, your hand was up from before, right? That was just you didn't take your hand down. Okay, okay. Just making sure there wasn't a follow-up there. Riley, thank you so much, and Catherine for introducing us to Riley and bringing Riley. Honestly, let's continue this conversation. Please get on the One Pair States listserv, Riley. We're all supporters of CNA, NNU. So many of us are active with PNHP, Healthcare Now. We're all rowing in the same direction. We just want to make sure that we're building, and looking for opportunities. So thank you again, for Riley, for coming in this evening. Thank you.